Okay, so let's talk about the greatest empire the world had ever seen. An empire built on fire, on magic, on pure ambition. Now, what if I told you it was all wiped from existence in a single, absolutely terrifying day? This is the story of the Doom of Valyria.
You know, for thousands of years, the Valyrian Freehold wasn't just a world power. It pretty much was the world. Its cities gleamed, its sorcery was unmatched, and its influence stretched across entire continents. To everyone, its reign felt as permanent as the mountains themselves.
And the source of all that power? Well, it wasn't just big armies or clever politics. The Valyrians had a living, breathing, fire-breathing nuclear option. They commanded dragons. And with those dragons, they had total, absolute control over the skies and every bit of land below.
I mean, think about it. There was no one who could even come close to challenging them. In the eyes of the entire world, Valyria's power was absolute, unshakable, eternal. But here's the thing. The very source of their incredible strength was built on the most volatile, explosive foundation you could possibly imagine.
So, how does an eternal empire just vanish off the face of the earth? We're about to move from the myth of their power to the mind-blowing reality of their end.
This wasn't some slow decline, you know. It wasn't a gradual decay over centuries, no. The end of Valyria was sudden, unbelievably violent, and total. It was an apocalypse born from the very heart of their power.
And that brings us to the event itself. It's known simply, and pretty ominously, as the Doom, a day when the world was, quite literally, remade in fire. See, the entire Valyrian Peninsula was built on this massive chain of volcanoes called the 14 Flames. This was the geological heart of their empire. It was the source of their riches, their magic, and, in the end, their utter destruction.
On the day of the Doom, the absolute unthinkable happened. It wasn't just one volcano erupting. It wasn't two. In a single, coordinated, cataclysmic instant, all 14 volcanoes erupted at once.
The chain reaction was instantaneous, and it was total. The sky went pitch black with ash. The ground itself ripped apart. Mountains didn't just rumble, they exploded, unleashing rivers of lava that just swallowed everything. Even the dragons, the masters of the sky, were swatted down and incinerated by the sheer heat. Cities that had stood for millennia were just gone in moments.
The finality of it all is just staggering. This wasn't a war, this wasn't a rebellion, this was an extinction-level event. In just one day, the Valyrian Freehold, the greatest empire in the world, just ceased to exist.
So, what happens when a whole civilization gets erased like that? Well, the world is left with a ghost, a haunted, cursed ruin that serves as a permanent, terrifying warning. The destruction was so complete it actually poisoned the land and the water. The sea around the ruins still boils and steams from the volcanic heat, which is how it got its name, the Smoking Sea. It became a total no-go zone, a place of nightmares where sailors just vanish and people whisper about twisted, strange creatures lurking in the ruins. But in this story of complete and total annihilation, there's one huge exception. One family that, whether through prophecy or just pure dumb luck, escaped the fate that claimed all of their people.
While every other powerful Dragonlord family was turned to ash in the Doom, one, and only one, survived. House Targaryen. And that single fact, right there, is the one thing that would go on to shape the entire history of the world for centuries to come.
So how'd they do it? Well, about 12 years before the Doom, a young Targaryen girl had a prophetic dream, a vision of the destruction to come. The other Dragonlords, they laughed at them, called them cowards for listening to a dream. But the Targaryens, they took it seriously. They packed up their entire family and moved to this dreary, remote island called Dragonstone. And when the fire finally came, they were already long gone.
Now, even though Valyria itself was physically gone, its influence was just way too big to simply disappear. Its legacy would keep echoing through the ages, carried forward from the ashes.
For a few hundred years, the world was in chaos, trying to deal with the power vacuum left by Valyria. Then, a descendant of those sole survivors, a man named Aegon Targaryen, decided to use the very tools of the old empire to forge a new one. He turned his eyes and his dragons towards Westeros.
So what was actually left of old Valyria? Well, you had the legendary magic-forged Valyrian steel swords, sharper and stronger than anything else. You had little scraps of forgotten knowledge and magic. And most important of all, you had the last Dragon Lords, with the last dragons. These weren't just leftovers. They were the seeds of a brand new empire. But that brings us back to the biggest mystery of all, doesn't it? What really caused the Doom? Was it just a freak natural disaster, or was it the price for Valyria's own arrogance? Maybe their sorcerers dug too deep, played with magic they shouldn't have, and literally broke the world. Or was it something else entirely?
In the end, we don't know for sure. The real cause is buried under miles of ash and myth. But what we do know, what is absolutely certain, is that on that day the entire course of world history was changed, violently and forever.
The end of that incredible story was really just the beginning of another one. The destruction of the world's greatest empire created the perfect opportunity for its only survivors to one day build a new one. The Doom of Valyria wasn't just an ending, it was the fiery birth of the legend of House Targaryen.